Hi everyone, welcome to Shuckle TV. Today, I'm attempting to beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokémon Alpha Sapphire using only Poison-type Pokémon. Now, some people may say that Poison-type Pokémon are trash. They're only super effective against two types, one of which wasn't added until Gen 6. I personally really like Poison types, and think they're far from garbage. Okay, well, maybe not this one. Poison types have some great strengths. They're immune to the poison status condition and resist 5 types, including themselves, making them great at switching into battle. We get to use some iconic poison types in this run, like Too Fast Bat, Angry Squid, and Pile of Sewage. Depending on our luck, we can encounter between 7 and 8 of these Pokemon, though Weezing and Swalot are both unlikely. For a full list of my rules, check out the description, but in short, anything that faints is considered dead and unusable, no items in battle other than held items, no leveling past the next gym's ace, and I play on set mode. Lastly, I use Dupes Clause, meaning I reroll encounters until I find a unique poison type. With that, I name myself Jake, and let's begin this poison-filled journey. We walk over and leap out of the moving van we had no business riding in, and prepare for our new life in Little Root Town. We get to see the new house Machoke Mover Enterprises has set up for us. Afterwards, we break into our neighbor's home uninvited, sneak up the stairs, and creepily spy on our new friend/rival May, before meeting her dad, Professor Birch. Aw, they're having fun. I'll leave them be. I pick Torchic as my starter so May gets Mudkip, but we can't use it anyway. Wurmple is our true starter and I name her Mikasa. Wurmple has a 50-50 shot at evolving into Silcoon or Cascoon, but we can only use Cascoon.
Mission failed. We'll get him next time.
Well, let's try that again with a new Wurmple. That's more like it. I then quickly evolved the Cascoon into a Dustox. In Petalburg City, we meet up with our deadbeat dad, as well as a 3-year-old we're tasked with babysitting. After reaching Petalburg Woods, we're attacked by Team Aqua. Easy fight though, and then we leave Petalburg Woods. With that, we're ready to take on Roxanne, the first gym leader in Rustboro. This is honestly one of the hardest fights in this run, and may take multiple attempts. We need RNG on our side. I lead with Harden, and Geodude misses Rock Tomb. This is fantastic. Then our first confusion crits, meaning Geodude goes down in 2 turns instead of 3. This is huge. Our second confusion crits as well, which is a bit of overkill. This Dustox is a monster. We then learn Poison Powder at 15, which is necessary for taking out the Nose Pass. I do lead with confusion, which was a mistake, but we have a ton of tempo from the Geodude fight. I then Poison Powder next turn, so now we just need to confuse, avoid crits, or dodge Rock Tombs. The Oranberry recovery will give us an extra turn as poison ticks down on the Nose Pass. We continue to land confusions as Nose Pass continues to land Rock Tombs. He's now low enough that Roxanne heals him though. This is why Poison Powder was needed. The fight lasts too long to win just by spamming confusion, and Poison's consistent damage is too valuable. Another Rock Tomb brings us to 16 health, and without the earlier miss from Geodude and crit to take him down sooner, there was no way we were winning that fight. We then meet the president of a corporation that specializes in electronic communication devices. He decides the best way to send a message is by getting us, a 10-year-old child, to deliver a letter. We then hitch a ride on an old man's speedboat to Dewford Town. This Wingull wants to know what your favorite poison-type Pokemon is. Make sure you let him know in the comments. Don't disappoint him. Once we reach Dewford Town, it's here I can catch 2 new team members. I fish up a Tentacool and name her Potato Girl. And then, inside Granite Cave, I catch a Zubat and name her Historia. Is this supposed to be some sort of squat? Anyway, it's time to fight Brawly, leader of the fighting gym. This is an unbelievably easy fight, as all of our Pokemon heavily resist this gym. We also have Confusion on Dustox, and while not Stab, is still quite the powerful super effective move at this stage of the game. We get Brawly to waste his potion, and then we finish off his Machop. Makuhita comes out next, but only has knockoff to hit us, and this Dustox has a lot of physical defense EVs, which I gained when training for the first gym. A second Confusion takes out the Makuhita, and that's 2 gyms down. We can now head deeper into Granite Cave and witness a mural depicting the destruction of the Hoenn region, and it's here we meet the silver-haired starlet Steven Stone. We then get a salty old man to take us to Slateport Beach. We have some ship parts to deliver because Hoenn postal workers are on strike, and the logical backup is 10-year-old children, obviously. For some reason, we can't just leave the ship parts at the shipyard, because that would be ridiculous. So we meet Team Aqua's leader Archie while delivering the parts to Captain Stern, and then continue on our journey. Above Slateport, I search for a poison type, and I end up finding Gulpin. I catch Gulpin and name her Annie. I make my way towards Mauville and enter the most difficult May fight of the game. She has the ground-type monstrosity Marshtomp. Just look at it. That's the face of a stone-cold killer. Yeah, I gotta get Annie out of there. Luckily, Marshtomp can't do much to a flying type, so Historia has got this covered. We eventually take it down with a final wing attack and win the fight. I risk getting Oddish and missing Roselia next to Mauville, but get lucky and find a Roselia first. I name him Armin. Back inside Mauville City, we run into Wally and his uncle outside the electric gym. We're then quickly forced to knock some sense into him. After we knock out his diseased toddler, he asks if he can be our rival. Time for the third gym. This is one of the more difficult gyms since Watson has a really early Magneton, and even Magnemite is a problem. Annie gets to show off here, being quite the help. My goal is to just power up punch as much as possible, hopefully catching Magneton on a Volt Switch in. Our Cherry Berry cures our paralysis, but Magnemite goes for another Thunder Wave, paralyzing us once again. We just have to stay in and risk it. Watson heals with a Super Potion, and then we land another power-up punch, boosting our attack to +3. Then Magnemite goes for a Volt Switch, but unfortunately Voltorb comes in, and we end up getting fully paralyzed anyway. The best thing I can do is continue punching, and Voltorb goes for Charge. Power-up punch does over half, and I'm hoping we tank the Volt Switch, and one-shot an incoming Magneton. Sadly, Watson sends Magnemite back in, no luck for us. Magnemite is down though, and then Voltorb comes back in, but it's not safe to leave Annie in anymore, so I send out Armin the Roselia. Voltorb charges again, but it's no threat this time. It goes for a charge a second time, but Armin's Magical Leaf is enough to finish it off. Magneton comes out, but Leech Seed should be able to handle it from this position. We land the Leech Seed, and it hits a Supersonic. This isn't a huge problem though, as we have Health Drain on our side and can safely switch into Mikasa. Magnet Bomb doesn't hit too hard even with a crit, and then we heal up again from Leech Seed. I go for Struggle Bug to lower its special attack, weakening the Volt Switches, but it goes for Supersonic again. It's still dying from Leech Seed, so we don't have anything to worry about. I switch back to Armin, who takes almost nothing from the Volt Switch, eventually finishing off the Magneton with a Magical Leaf. That's 3 badges down. Now sit back, relax, and allow me to show you the mysterious and gripping tale of the Golbat who had the shortest lifespan of all. Well, that about sums it up. I then sneak around some trainers and reach Fiery Path. I would prefer Coughing, but it's a much lower chance to encounter, and I end up finding a Grimer, who I name Aaron. After leaving Fiery Path— oh no. Oh, we gotta get out of here. I reach Full Arbor Town and then head southwest and reach Route 114 where I can get my second last encounter, a Seviper. I decide to name him Levi. I then take a nice relaxing cable car ride to the top of Mount Chimney where I have to put a stop to Team Aqua's villainous plot. We easily deal with Archie though and head to the 4th gym. Flannery is the 4th gym leader and a fire-type specialist. She leads with her Slugma and I lead with Potato Girl. This is actually a pretty easy fight. While her fire types do pack Overheat, Tentacool is a special defense wall and resists fire type moves. We can easily take out the Slugma with a single Bubble Beam. Numel comes out next, but has a quadruple weakness to water, and we're holding a Sea Incense. Poor Camel never stood a chance. Torkoal is last, and the reason we set up Toxic Spikes. I go for Bubble Beam, and it actually did a lot more damage than I thought it would, just shy of the kill. If Body Slam was to paralyze us, Toxic Spikes were our contingency plan. That's 4 badges. May gives us some goggles we'll never use, and then brings us back to Petalburg so we can beat up my dad. I use Super Training to get a shiny stone to evolve Armin. Roserade is honestly one of my favorite poison types. Potato Girl then gets the chance to evolve into a bigger, more vengeful squid, and finally we evolve Annie into the larger, now purple blob. It's time to take on our deadbeat dad, Norman. He specializes in child neglect and normal type Pokemon, using only the Slacking line. I lead with Armin and land a Leech Seed while he retaliates with a Yawn. Armin has natural cure though, so there's no point in switching him out yet. I instead go for toxic spikes to make Norman's other two Pokemon easier to deal with. Armin falls asleep, but will cure his status when switched out. I then switch him out for Potato Girl, and tank a Retaliate fairly well. We have a lot of healing from Leech Seed, and slacking only hits every other turn. This gives me a great opportunity to set up barriers, gaining 2 defense stages with each use, while Leech Seed keeps us healthy. I set up another barrier, and then get hit by Yawn. That's fine, because this slacking is not going to be able to kill us through our defense boosts, even if we lose a few turns to sleep. I continue to use Barrier, still sapping Slacking's health with Leech Seed as we fall asleep. I'm going to heavily speed up the battle here, as we get encored into Barrier, and we're still asleep, while Slacking isn't really doing anything to us. After a handful of turns where nothing particularly exciting happens, we are both awake and no longer encored. We're finally ready to start sweeping. Bubble Beam hits Slacking pretty hard, and Truant means he's helpless to fight back. Leech Seed comes just shy of finishing him off, but a second Bubble Beam does the job. Vigoroth comes out next, but Toxic Spikes and Venoshock make for an incredible combination. That's 130 base power when poisoned before the stab bonus. We use a similar strategy to deal with the final Slacking. We force Slacking to use Chip Away thanks to our barriers instead of a Retaliate that would one-shot us if it crit. A second Venoshock finishes off the match and gives us our 5th gym badge. We run into Steven, who seems to have us figured out, and then we help save Latias from Team Aqua. I need an adult. On the way to Fortree City, I catch my final encounter, a Gloom. I name him Jean. Just beyond Fortree City, I run into Steven again, and he gives me the Mega Evolution Stone for Torchic. Great! It's now time to take on the 6th gym leader, Winona. This is a pretty big step up from prior fights with 4 Pokemon, and her Altaria has Earthquake. She leads with Swellow and I lead with Roserade. Weird choice, I know. The reason is I want Leech Seed up, and I know I can take one Aerial Ace and would live even if it crit. I wanted to Leech Seed in order to provide additional healing to Potato Girl when I switch. We can easily tank Aerial Aces from Swellow, and the Leech Seed offsets the damage greatly. It's then time to set up Barrier so we can further reduce the physical damage we take, allowing us to easily shrug off Swellow's attacks. I then set up a second Barrier while it does negligible damage, and then take it out with Surf. Altaria comes in next, and I was not expecting that. All the other leaders have had their Ace come out last, so now I have to switch to Historia to avoid an Earthquake. It can't really hurt us, so I go for a Confuse Ray, but it breaks through and sets up a Cotton Guard. It has huge defense now. This is bad, and I should have taught Sludge Bomb to Historia. There's not a ton we can do besides fishing for crits, so I go for Acrobatics, doing very little damage. I decide to use Cross Poison with the increased crit chance, and it works. We crit, we almost take it out, but then Winona uses a Hyper Potion. I'll speed things up here because all I'm doing is spamming Cross Poison while hoping for a critical hit, while Altaria is confused and can't hit us back very hard anyway. We manage to poison it, and then next turn I decide to confuse it again, but it manages to break through, and it has Roost. We need a critical hit, or it to not bother healing if we're ever going to take it out. I'm honestly just glad we landed the poison fairly quickly. Altaria continues to use Dragon Breath and even crits us. I hit it with Cross Poison and hope for no Roost, but it heals again. I'm in big trouble if I have to switch out Historia. It does hurt itself in Confusion, and the poison damage continues to tick. I misclick though and hit Confuse Ray again, wasting my turn, and it heals with Roost. This could be really bad. I confuse it again, and it hurts itself, thank goodness. Next turn I land a regular Cross Poison, and it hurts itself again. Poison leaves it in the red, so I go for the stronger Acrobatics, and finally take it out. Skarmory comes out next, and I decide to land a Confuse Ray before switching. It works, and Skarmory hurts itself. After that, Potato Girl makes her return, getting a free switch in from Confusion. From there, Sea Incense boosted Surf hits quite hard and finishes Skarmory off. Pelipper comes in next, and she can't really do anything to us, but spams Protect, as all Pelippers do, making hers an annoying death, heavily overstaying her welcome, before finally falling to a second Sludge Bomb. With that, we have 6 badges already. I take some time to evolve Aaron into a larger pile of sludge, and then evolve Jean into a Vileplume. After that, I use Thief to steal some black sludge from a few Grimers back in Fiery Path. It's leftovers for poison types. Super useful. I then repeatedly ram my face into a boulder in order to get the toxic TM. Now that's what I call using your head. We've now reached the part of the game where we have to deal with a lot of Team Aqua stuff. First up is Mount Pyre, a Pokemon cemetery. After we reach the summit, we find Team Aqua, and it only took them 12 years to figure out that blue is for Kyogre. So proud of you, Archie. We then have to fight the Team Aqua admin Matt again, and I make his Sharpedo take his own life. Thanks, Rocky Helmet. Then they steal this old man's submarine in Slateport, and we have to head to Lily Cove City and break into their super secret base. It's a gigantic hole in the wall 18 feet from Lily Cove City. It's here we meet my mortal enemy, teleporter panels. Yeah, I'm not dealing with this today. We then run into a group of 5 Aqua Grunts, and is this even legal in the Pokemon world? Well, I guess they're a villain team, so it wouldn't really... forget it. Team Aqua escapes in the sub again. It's now time to start surfing and make our way to Moss Deep City. If I remember correctly, it takes quite a while to reach it from Lily... Oh. Well, we're gonna head to the Psychic Gym, and hopefully sneak past the trainers. Excuse me? So this gym is special because it's actually a double battle, and Psychic is also our team's biggest weakness. I have a foolproof plan though. I fly into the air with Historia turn 1 and surf with Potato Girl, who's also holding a Sea Incense to boost water moves. Crobat has lower special defense than Tentacruel, so it should bait in 2 Psychics that Fly avoids, and then next turn Surf will uh-oh. That's not good. Hopefully Lunatone doesn't set up a light screen as well. Oh. Is there a saying that means the opposite of everything went according to plan? If so, that would be this. Our Surf is now going to do very little damage. Both opponents have Stab Psychic that is super effective against every single one of my Pokemon. I have no safe switches and just have to continue the now butchered plan. Surf does paltry damage to both opponents. Solrock goes for Solar Beam instead of Psychic for no apparent reason against Potato Girl, and then Lunatone hits her with a Psychic as well. This is really bad. I'm honestly not completely sure what to do in this situation, but I know I need to switch Potato Girl out. She is the most valuable member of this team. Armin has the highest likelihood of surviving a Solar Beam Psychic combination. Historia lands a Fly, and then Solrock uses Rock Slide. Of course he does. Lunatone then Psychics Armin. He just barely manages to hang on. And this turn I decide to try and regain some momentum by switching Jean in and using Roost on Historia. Solrock Rock Slides again, and Lunatone Psychics Historia, with us just barely living the hit. At this point I decide to go Giga Drain on Solrock and Fly on Lunatone since it's likely that they target Historia. I neglected to think about Rock Slide flinches. Lunatone does Psychic the Flying Crobat and we manage to not flinch, Giga Draining the Solrock to death. I had accepted losing Jean here, as Roserade is better than Vileplume, but I am glad that he was not the one Psychicked. One final problem, Fly has a 5% chance to miss. It lands though, and we just barely scrape by and win the fight. That's 7 badges, thank goodness. Time to dive into the sea, fight through an underwater cave, and prevent a bodybuilder from resurrecting an ancient sea cow. It's time to fight Archie for the last time. He has Mega Evolution as his ace, so this is going to be difficult. He leads with Mightyena, while I lead with Potato Girl. The main goal is to set up barriers in order to tank through Mega Sharpedo since we can likely one-shot it with a Sludge Bomb. Mightyena taunts us though. Since I can no longer use status moves, I just switch straight to Sludge Bomb. It almost kills the Mightyena and it poisons it. We're also holding a black sludge to keep us healthy. Next turn I go for another Sludge Bomb and it finishes off the Mightyena. Archie sends out Muck next, and this is the reason I didn't bother with Toxic Spikes this fight. We're still taunted, so I just use Surf. It does a little less than half of Muck's HP, but the taunt wears off. I decide to go back to using Barrier, while Muck just has Gunk Shot to hit us with, doing basically nothing. This gives me time to set up another Barrier, capping me out at +6 defense. Muck goes for Sludge Wave, which also does nothing. I think my favorite part of an all-poison team is the fact that I can never be poisoned. Muck then uses Screech, but our ability Clear Body prevents stat reduction. He can't really do anything to a Tentacruel. Next turn I finish it off with a final Surf. Crobat comes out next, and I'm quickly shown that my plan was not without flaws. Haze eliminates all of my stat boosts. Surf hits hard, and a second one will knock it out, but not before it takes a lot of our health and removes my buffs needed to deal with Sharpedo. Sharpedo comes out, and we are in a lot of trouble. I can't risk losing Potato Girl, as she is the most important member of the team for the Elite Four and the Champion, and Sharpedo will outspeed everyone. This means that someone needs to die, and that someone is going to be Aaron. Sharpedo Mega evolves, further bolstering its high offense and speed before landing a devastating crunch that deals over half of Muck's health. It dealt that much damage, and nobody could have taken that hit better than Muck either. There was no escaping this fight without a loss. Rest in peace, Puddle of Sludge. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. I send out Jean next, as he can just barely tank a critical crunch, and Giga Drain will one-shot Sharpedo. With that, we've defeated Archie, but it came with a high cost. After his defeat, he still awakens Kyogre though, and then I return to the PC and properly lay Aaron to rest. Everyone waits for us in Setopolis City, where we must save the world by stopping Kyogre's horrible rainfall, else the world flood. Unlike the original games, you can't just run from this fight, so we have to defeat a souped up monstrosity, but I have a plan. We're just gonna Toxic stall it out. Turn 1 I land Toxic, and I also have Protect and Dive to waste turns. Origin Pulse hits us super hard, and that would one-shot most of my Pokemon. We are holding a Black Sludge though for recovery. From this point on, I'm just gonna alternate between using Protect and Dive while the Kyogre picks a random move each turn, and the Toxic damage begins to build up. I'll heavily speed things up, as each turn is basically just me stalling for time, hoping eventually the horrible poisons coursing through Kyogre's veins puts the gigantic beast back to sleep. It does have Aqua Ring, which slightly slows things down, but ultimately doesn't have any real impact, and eventually the Kyogre falls to poison. With the rainfall stopped, Lysander fires the ultimate weapon into the sky. Oh, wait a minute, wrong game. And we're saved. We just have a few ice puzzles to do before the 8th gym leader, and then it's on to Victory Road and the Elite Four. Wallace specializes in water-type Pokemon and does have 5 on his team, but we have a Roserade, so there's not really that much he can do. He does send out Milotic second, and it has Ice Beam, but there's no way it can one-shot Armin. We're really only worried about the freeze chance. Once that first Ice Beam doesn't freeze though, it means we're guaranteed to sweep. He basically just applies a potion to our Pokemon, thanks to Giga Drain. With Milotic down, all of Wallace's other Pokemon get outsped and one-shot by a single Miracle Seed boosted Giga Drain. That's all 8 badges. It's now time for us to head through Victory Road. There's not really anything particularly exciting in here, other than the final battle. As I enter the final chamber of Victory Road, I'm greeted by a familiar face. They grow up so fast. That little toddler we babysat, Wally, has become a full-fledged trainer. Wally has a mega evolving psychic type, so we need to be careful. He leads with Altaria, and I lead with Potato Girl, and we're gonna do, you guessed it, barrier stuff. This Altaria can't really hurt us, so we can set up barrier before finishing it off with an Ice Beam. A single one does more than enough to take it out. He sends out Magneton, so I switch Potato Girl out and send in Jean. For some reason, Magneton goes for Tri-Attack though? Not really a problem. I put it to sleep next turn, and then decide it's probably best to send in Annie the Swalot. Magneton wakes up after 1 turn and lands a weak Discharge. Annie uses Earthquake, which brings down Magneton to 1 HP. Man, I hate sturdy and Nuzlockes. Magneton then lands another Discharge, but thankfully we aren't paralyzed. Another Earthquake finishes the job. The crit mattered. Delcatty comes out next. I really need the Roselia to come out so I can set up Toxic Spikes to deal with his ace, Gallade. Delcatty does nothing and falls to 2 Earthquakes. Roselia comes in next, and now I can switch to Armin to set up Toxic Spikes. This Roselia also has no moves that can do anything to a Grass Poison type. It is its own greatest weakness. After setting up 2 layers of Toxic Spikes, we are somewhat prepared to deal with the Gallade. I switch Armin out and send Historia the Crobat in, taking essentially no damage on the switch. I then use Fly, and on the second turn it lands and one-shots it. Wally's ace Gallade comes out, and this Pokemon is a psychic fighting powerhouse. I'm a little worried because it has Swords Dance, so I don't want to use Protect turn 1. I'm quite sure I can tank a single super effective hit, so I go for Confuse Ray while it Mega Evolves. Awesome looking Mega Evolution, by the way. Confuse Ray lands, but unfortunately Gallade breaks through and lands a Psycho Cut. Yeah, we were not surviving a crit. Historia hangs on though, and we now have a 95% chance of winning with no deaths. I use Protect to stall out another turn of poison, and then next turn I use Fly, heading up into the sky. Everything rests on Fly landing now, as it has a 5% chance to miss. It lands, and it finishes off the Gallade. With Wally beaten, there are just 5 fights left in the entire game. I head towards our final battles and through the door. After doing a bit of move rearranging and remembering, these are the somewhat final move sets and the 6 Pokemon I'm bringing into the Elite Four with me. I have some interesting strategies for dealing with our opponents, and I'll be switching out some moves with TMs as we go. Let's do this. We cross the bridge and get ready to fight the first member, Sydney. He specializes in Dark-type Pokemon, but is quite underleveled compared to the rest of the Elite Four. He leads Mightyena and I lead Mikasa. The goal here is to just set up a bunch of Quiver Dances and then sweep through with Bug Buzz. Mightyena misses a Swagger, giving us another free turn to set up Quiver Dance. He lands a Swagger the next turn, but it's not a problem. Dustox has pathetic attack, and we're holding a Black Sludge to keep us healed up. I also have Roost in case anything goes wrong and we get a bit too hurt. We do unfortunately hit ourselves in confusion quite frequently, but we do very little damage. Roost fully heals us, and I am now ready to start sweeping through with Bug Buzzes. Sydney predicts an attack though, and does land a powerful Sucker Punch. Bug Buzz then one-shots the Mightyena. Shiftry comes out next and has Fake Out, but our ability Shield Dust prevents the added effects of moves, so we don't flinch. It then falls to a Bug Buzz. Absol comes out next, but none of Sydney's remaining Pokemon can outspeed us or do any meaningful damage. Every single one falls to a single Bug Buzz. That's the first Elite Four member down, but they only get more difficult from here. I have an interesting strategy for the next fight though. The second Elite Four member is Phoebe, who specializes in Ghost-type Pokemon. She leads with Dusclops and I lead with Armin. The goal here is to set up Leech Seed and Toxic Spikes, so I can then enact my plan. Dusclops uses Curse, taking half of its health and inflicting an annoying status condition on us, though it's not a big deal here. We then set up Toxic Spikes that are going to win us the fight, while Dusclops hits us with a Confuse Ray. The Leech Seed healing heavily offsets the Curse damage. From here I switch to Potato Girl, while Dusclops uses Future Sight, an 120 power psychic move that will hit us in 2 turns. We don't really have to worry about that though, because we're not going to be Poison type for much longer. Phoebe heals Dusclops, and I use the move Reflect Type, which copies the opponent's typing and makes it your own. Unfortunately, I neglected to think about Black Sludge, and now it hurts us. I do now have a Stab Hex for the bonus damage, and it one-shots Dusclops. The Future Sight attack then hits us for almost nothing, and all of Phoebe's Pokemon will now arrive poisoned, meaning Hex does double damage, and it's super effective on almost all of her Pokemon, and we get Stab. We're still taking damage from the Black Sludge each turn, but it isn't going to be a problem as none of her Pokemon have priority moves, can outspeed us, or can survive the boosted same type bonus hexes. With one final hex, her Dusknoir falls, and that is the second Elite Four member down. The third Elite Four member is Glacia, and probably the most annoying one to deal with. She relies on Hail and a couple other annoying strategies, but her lead Glalie isn't really a problem, and I'm planning on completely setting up Mikasa against it. It can't really do much to us damage-wise, we don't have to worry about Crunch lowering our defense, and between Black Sludge and Roost, there's no way this thing can knock us out, allowing us to easily set up 6 Quiver Dances. I'm gonna skip forward here to our final Quiver Dance, as it took a while with Glalie spamming Hail and us needing to occasionally Roost. I finally start attacking, and even at +6 special attack, Bug Buzz isn't enough to one-shot Glalie because of the light screen that's up. It then sets up its third Hail. At least the Black Sludge offsets the weather damage. I go for Shadow Ball, but Glacia uses a full restore. The Shadow Ball does less than half Glalie's health, but then their light screen wears off. Another Shadow Ball takes it out, and like lambs to the slaughter, she sends each of her Frostlass out one at a time, with a single Shadow Ball taking them down. Her ace, Walrein, comes out, and despite being bulky, a +6 Bug Buzz is enough to take it out. She sends out Glalie last, but the end result is the same. A single Bug Buzz eliminates it, and that's 3 Elite Four members down. Drake is up last, and we're gonna get revenge with a Metronome run. He leads with Altaria, and I lead with Armin to set up a single Leech Seed, while Altaria wastes its turn with Cotton Guard. After that, I go for Toxic Spikes to prepare for the Kingdra. We easily tank a super effective Aerial Ace and heal from Leech Seed. I then switch out to Potato Girl as she's packing Drake's biggest weakness, the Ice Beam TM. We easily tank an Aerial Ace, and I have Black Sludge and Leech Seed for healing. I don't bother setting up barriers and go straight for Ice Beam, taking out Altaria. Drake's dragons come out one by one, helpless to resist and unable to fight back against Potato Girl's fury as they are outsped and one-shot by Ice Beam. After taking out his final Flygon, the true threat arrives. Kingdra. We don't have any great moves to hit this, so that's why I had to set up Toxic Spikes. Ice Beam still does decent damage, but then it yawns us. I switch Potato Girl out for Mikasa in order to shake off the yawn, but Kingdra ends up using yawn again anyway. I then switch back to Potato Girl in order to tank the incoming Surf. Kingdra is also now in the perfect health range that we can take it out with an Ice Beam before it gets in full restore range. Ice Beam takes it out, and that's all 4 members down. Only 1 battle remains. We walk towards those grand doors, and as our heart beats faster, we begin to sprint forward, wondering who could await us beyond that entryway. We take our final steps up the stairs, and who do we see? The silver-haired starlet himself, Steven Stone. Everything we've done on this journey has brought us to this moment. The friends we made along the way, the Pokémon singular we lost when we fell on dire times, the challenges we managed to overcome. Can we push past one final challenge? Can we defeat a champion whose entire team is designed to hard counter Poison-type Pokémon? Poison versus Steel. Who will come out on top? Steven is the toughest trainer in the entire region, complete with his own Mega Ace Pokémon. He specializes in Steel types which are immune to poison, but I have one incredible plan to fight fire with fire. I set up a Leech Seed against Skarmory while it sets up Spikes. This will provide us with the healing we need, and then I set up a Toxic Spikes purely to help with the Cradily later, while Skarmory sets up another layer of Spikes. It's now time to execute the final plan of the run. I switch out Armin and send in Potato Girl, taking some spike damage on the switch. Skarmory sets up a 3rd layer of spikes, but little does he know how fruitless that is. We heal from Leech Seed and then click our game-winning move. We use the move Reflect Type to copy Skarmory's Steel Flying typing, turning us into a Steel Flying Tentacruel, easily resisting Skarmory's attacks and healing from Leech Seed. From here I begin setting up barriers to bolster our physical defense while Skarmory attempts to chip away at our health, failing miserably while Leech Seed continues to keep us healthy. I learned from the Phoebe fight not to put a black sludge on, so instead we're holding a Sea Incense to boost our only attacking move, Scald. We also have Rain Dance to further boost our Scald damage once we're done setting up barriers, so we can hopefully sweep through all of Steven's Pokémon. Leech Seed puts Skarmory in the red, so Steven ends up using a full restore, and I use this time to cast Rain Dance. With our water moves boosted by 50%, we are ready to take out this giant metal bird and show him who the superior Steel Flying type is. Scald hits pretty hard, we resist the Steel Wing, and Skarmory is back in the red. Another Scald finishes it off. Aggron comes out next, and we no longer have any form of recovery, but we should be okay. It hangs on through Scald thanks to Sturdy, and then lands a weak Stone Edge. A second Scald finishes it off. Cradily comes out next, and is poisoned from Toxic Spikes. The rain has ended though, so I go for another Rain Dance. It's convenient that none of Steven's Pokémon resist water, and 3 of them have a weakness to it. Cradily then lands a Confuse Ray, which is a bit annoying, but not a huge problem. Our only worry would be if Cradily got multiple Ancient Power Omni boosts, but we break through the confusion and land a weak Scald. Cradily hits Ancient Power, no boost. We then go for another Scald next turn, snapping out of confusion and taking out the Cradily. Claydol comes out next, and its ground psychic typing would be a nightmare for poison types, but luckily that's not what we are. Scald almost takes it out, it sets up a light screen, and then next turn Steven heals it while we land another Scald. I don't think I've ever seen Scald used this much without it burning anything. I go for Rain Dance to boost my water moves again, while Claydol hits us with a very weak extra sensory. Next turn, Scald brings it to the red, living thanks to Light Screen. He sets up Reflect though, wasting a turn. One more Scald takes out the Claydol. Armaldo comes out next, but Light Screen just wore off, so a single Scald is more than enough to take it out. All that's left is one final monstrosity, Mega Metagross. This thing's base stats are insane, but it lacks the move coverage to fight a Steel Flying type. It uses Giga Impact, its hardest hitting move, barely doing anything and throwing away its next turn. I take this time to set up the rain again, and then next turn Mega Metagross hits us with another weak Giga Impact, while we retaliate with Scald. Still no burn, which is the reason I picked it over Surf. Our third Scald is enough to take it down, and that's it. We have defeated the champion. We follow Steven into the final room and prepare to enter the Hall of Fame as the new champion of the Hoenn region. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. It helps me out a ton so I can continue to make content you love. If you'd like to see more, try the suggested video in the corner here, or check out some of my other videos. Thanks for watching, everyone. This has been Shuckle TV.